And joining us now is the one and only Farron Cousins, editor of Trial Lawyer Magazine and co-host of Ring of Fire Radio. You can catch him at trofire.com and on Twitter at perhaps my favorite Twitter handle, Farron Balanced, Farron Balanced, and at Ring of Fire Radio. Hi, Farron.
Hey, Danielle. How you doing today?
Doing very well, thank you. So you recently wrote an article, court documents show coal giant Peabody Energy funded dozens of climate denial groups. This is pretty similar to the stories coming out about Exxon and the fact that they not only knew about climate change issues, but worked very hard to hide them from the Congress and the American people. Am I missing something, or is the connection pretty clear there?
It is very clear, and we're starting to see the same thing, and that's why, this week, Exxon is fighting for their life to try to prevent this Texas court from handing over Exxon's own internal documents for the last 40 years to, liberal attorneys general who want to get their hands on those documents and see exactly what Exxon knew when they knew it, and then what they did to cover it up. Because the few documents that have come out about Exxon, we know that they knew, we know that they hid the dangers, but we need to know, like we know now with Peabody, who they were funding specifically to cover up the climate change disaster that they knew was coming. And what's interesting about the Exxon story, they knew about climate change before Dr. James Hansen went to Congress and was, one of the first people to put climate change on the national radar. Exxon was ahead of that and tried to cover it up. And so to me, that's one of the most remarkable things about the Exxon story, is that they were, almost ahead on the science and could have taken action, but decided, you know what, that might cut into profits. So let's just keep our mouths shut. Let's fund all of the deniers that we can and hope we get away with it. And they did for 40 years. And to be honest, today, they're still getting away with it. With this case being down in Texas, a lot of those Texas courts have been just packed with, Rick Perry hacks, George W. Bush hacks. So it's very difficult down there, to get any kind of favorable ruling. But hopefully we'll see something.
Yeah, even Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton said the investigation is ridiculous and is, quote, an effort to punish Exxon for daring to hold an opinion on climate change that differs from that of radical environmentalists. No, an opinion is something that we all as individuals form. Facts and science are what Exxon knew. Now, Farron, you're the lawyer in this conversation, so I am going to certainly show my ignorance here. How is this not fraud or collusion or conspiracy? I mean, this seems to me like you have a group of organizations that conspired together to not only lie to Congress directly, but then conceal that lie, continue to conceal it from all of us, and to mislead the public in a different direction. How is this not like blatantly illegal, RICO, they're all going to jail kind of a thing?
Well, I'm not actually a lawyer.
Oh, I thought you were.
No. Unfortunately not. I didn't go that route. But, obviously I do work around the best lawyers in this country.
Yes, you do.
We have had countless conversations about this. And the biggest problem with this whole Exxon case, like many other environmental cases relating to strictly CO2 emissions, is the standing requirement. You have to be able to prove the injury in the case. And in this case, when we're talking about air pollution and respiratory diseases, it's very easy to link that to CO2 emissions. But holding one specific company liable, was it Exxon's CO2 emissions and Exxon's only that caused the damage to the person, that caused the damage to the environment? You really get into, a very difficult case to prove, because we can't look at individual CO2 particles and trace them back. Now, from a RICO standpoint, it's possible. But again, it is so difficult to prove, especially when you have judges out there who say, or attorneys general who say that, look, this is their opinion. They're allowed to do it. Exxon's already arguing right now that this request for documents violates, puts an unnecessary burden on their political speech. They're using the language of our Supreme Court in justifying Citizens United. And because of the fact that the judiciary is so often overlooked by progressive politicians and progressive voters, Republicans have been stacking it for 20 years with their corporate political hacks. And so it's very difficult to get any kind of thing going against an industry as big as, any of the fossil fuel folks. And so that's why when we have things like the Peabody case, we got these documents, or the Guardian got these documents, I should say, because of the bankruptcy filing.
Wow.
And as more and more of these coal companies file for bankruptcy, lawyers get their hands on these documents. They can then become public record, and that's how the public can know. And it's going to take, maybe not even lawsuits, but mostly people-powered political action to get out there and stand up. If you have to chain yourself to a White House fence in a protest, we have to do that. If you have to, go protest a pipeline being built, we have to do that. The power's with the people. Congress, the Senate, the White House, they're bought and paid for by the fossil fuel industry. It's time for the people to stand up and make the change happen that they want to see.
Absolutely. And I personally don't really care what Exxon or Peabody or the rest of them try to claim as far as constitutional rights. I love Eric Schneiderman, Attorney General of New York. His response, the First Amendment does not protect against fraud. It doesn't get any clearer than that to me, although I am a big fan of Schneiderman, I have to admit. I know that we can't take the carbon particles and hold Exxon responsible for patient A, B, and C's illness. But isn't it still fraud? I mean, lying to Congress still seems illegal. I don't know that it's the same as lying to the FBI, where they can, hold you guilty just for that. But can't we play off Congress's egos here? Hey, they screwed you. They lied to you, man. They duped you. Don't you want to hold them accountable? Thoughts?
Well, it is certainly a possibility. Unfortunately, if they were to do that, Exxon has to turn around and say, wait, didn't I just write you a check for $10,000? And so that's what's so hard. But the investors of Exxon, you bring up a good point. Schneiderman has been all over this with the fraud. The investors of Exxon are the one who easily can prove that they were defrauded into, buying into a company that was covering up potential liabilities. Now, they absolutely have a case, and I hope they go forward with one. And that is one of the main things that these attorneys general are trying to do by getting these documents, because if they can prove that the investors were defrauded, that leaves the door open for a massive lawsuit against the company. Unfortunately, as far as, any kind of recovery or even an admission that they screwed up, I don't know how likely that is, because Exxon is just so powerful. And again, they write checks quicker than almost any other organization to politicians to make things like this disappear.
Which is hard to believe. Reading your article, I want to point everybody over to the Desmog blog, where Farron's article, Court Documents Show Giant Peabody Energy Funded Dozens of Climate Denial Groups. The quotes, the things that Peabody is, found guilty of here, or I guess I shouldn't use that term. They haven't been charged and convicted, but the things that were found in the documents, the organizations that they funded, the climate denial and skepticism that they orchestrated. It's I almost wish that these corporations were actually people so we could throw their butts in jail.
Well, you know what's interesting? Actually, in a couple days, we've got another fantastic article that'll be up on Desmog blog that is even more documents, but this time it's from DuPont in the C8 case that Mike Papantonio is currently trying. We just had a huge cache of documents come in. This company, what they knew, what's in those documents in that piece that'll be up in a day or two, will absolutely blow your mind. So check back in a couple days. It's amazing.
Desmog blog and, of course, Ring of Fire Radio and TV.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Farron Cousins, Ring of Fire, Trial Lawyer Magazine, and, of course, Desmog blog. Thank you, Farron.
Thank you.
To watch more clips from our programs, hit the Watch More Videos button over here. And please be sure to hit the handy-dandy subscribe button so you'll always be up to date. Tag, you're it.